All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun Reviews. Back to talk more about The Terror, but I'm going to fix my screen first. Well, unfortunately, that's about as good as it's going to get. So, anyway, we're talking about The Terror, Season 1 now. We got to say Season 1, even though I'm going to keep putting it in there as episode whatever. Episode 5, it's called First Shot of Winter, lads. And quite a bit of goodness in this episode. But what's not good is Francis's drinking. Now, I'm not going to be the first one to throw stones at a guy who's got a drinking problem, but in this kind of situation, yeah, this is bad. Like, this is really bad. And seeing his downfall into, the drink, as they would call it, man, really makes you kind of see how you had acted, like how I acted at times, when you can tell when somebody's really on the downward slide. Seeing Jared Harris's performance here is exactly how it is when you're just like, fuck it, I'm drinking myself to death. And then it's also like how in the end of this episode, how I felt, but I had no support. I didn't have a bunch of guys that were like, under me, that by their laws of military law and stuff, they have to help him. So I can definitely relate to what Jared Harris's Francis is going through. And don't call him Francis. But it's pretty bad. I mean, he's basically taking as much alcohol as he can from the other ship. He's got gin and rum, but he won't drink it because he's a whiskey Irishman, And it's so bad that his guys that like him, respect him, don't anymore. And it's like it's on the tip of everyone's tongue to do something, but hierarchy, chain of command, all that stuff, honor, duty, nobody will say anything outwardly, but it's pretty much reached its limit. And even his close guys, like I said, they're ready to snap too. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, we have Good Sir, who is looked down upon by the rest of the crew because he is finally breaking through to Lady Silence and getting quite a bit of a dictionary going, and Good Sir is like the hero of this show. And it's really interesting, all these character changes that have gone on in this, just 5 episodes, but all felt natural due to the circumstances that each episode brings. Right at the beginning, I kind of didn't like Captain Franklin, but I also didn't like Captain James Fitzjames. And I loved, Francis Crozier, played by Jared Harris. And I liked Hickey at the beginning of this. And now just the different character changes where Franklin's dead, Harris has become just worthless, by the time this episode hits. He's just hitting the sauce so hard. So I've even lost respect for his character. And then you got Fitzjames, who is actually stepping up, and somebody who I didn't really care for that much because of his opinion of Francis has now become a better leader in the circumstances that are needed from him. Although I do think he's hiding something, and I think that something is that he's engaged to the girl from, Sophia. I think something is going on there, and that's just going to be another thing that comes out, which, is for dramatic purposes, I'm sure. But it's just another thing that they don't need right now. But then you've also got Hickey, who I thought at the beginning of this was going to be a pretty interesting character. Well, a good character, but instead he's, allowed his situation to just make him worse and worse. And the best part of it is that when he tries to pull that shit with Good Sir, where he tries to just play that same old charm. Hey, I give a shit about what you're doing in there. Oh, and by the way, info, I need info. And Good Sir just looks at him like, does that work on anybody? And just closes it on him. Like, Good Sir has changed too, from this kind of weird, like kind of, curious but scared and not at all like really capable, has become a man who sees what's going on and is doing what needs to be done, but never really changes who he is at his heart, even though he's now willing to give it as well as he can take it. Especially the way he acted to the doctor that's in charge, and just how passive aggressive that guy always is to him, and just kind of snarled and snarky and shitty to him. And he just kind of flips it on him, like, like, what does he say? Yeah, about the wedding. Yeah, like, invite me to the wedding between you and Lady Silence. And just Good Sir saying, has anybody ever invited you to a wedding? And even, it's like he gets a little bit of respect from the doctor from that remark. As they comment, is that whole cheeky thing a new thing? And they say, yeah. He says, yeah, that's new. And he gets this look in his eye like that he's finally got a little bit more respect for Good Sir, even if maybe he doesn't, agree with what he's doing with with Lady Silence. But that guy just acts like, he just seems like a racist to me. That doctor's a piece of work. Speaking of the doctor, though, pieces are falling off people now, guys. Pieces are getting cut and snipped. It's not good. It's really bad. And yeah, you can feel the cold in this episode. Like, I had to put on, I usually, when I'm at home and I'm relaxed and that stuff, and I'll just usually because I run hot. So I'll just sit there, without a shirt on right now. But man, I had to, watching this, it made me cold. I had to, and I work in a cooler and a freezer all day, and I had to put on a shirt watching this episode. So, describing my casual routine through the review. But then, Hickey getting all curious about the Inuit girl getting moved to their thing, which is not good, but it ends up not really being much of an issue. He's just always got that look like he's up to something, though. And especially when he reacquaints himself with his old partner, let's call it that. And now the guys are starting to crack up. You're starting to see the guys crack up. The one guy who won't go doesn't want to go down there because of where the bodies are. You got the other guy talking to what I can only think is a dead guy, but that they haven't done anything with. He's got that thing that they put over his head, so maybe he's in a coma. I don't know. That doesn't seem to be the same guy that had was that the same guy who had his head split open? I don't remember. But then they do lose a guy on the ice, and I think that really might have been the guy who survived from before. But they found, yeah, it has to be, because they found the thing about the gums. And that's another really interesting conversation that him and the other guy have, that Good Sir and him have, about trying to diagnose this illness. And just the kind of interesting ways that they think, and what could be the things that would kill you. Like they talking about the lead in their water containers, and just trying to find different, very rudimentary scientific reasoning behind what's causing the problem. And I think it's Good Sir does find it, though, with the cans of food, that he tests on Jocko, the monkey, because I guess, honestly, you wouldn't get much meat from a dead monkey anyway, so you might as well test some bad canned food on him, because that poor monkey, it shouldn't even be out there. That is such the shit people do, because I don't know. But anyway, we haven't even gotten to the really good part, because we're still dealing with Francis's just growing alcohol problem. And then when they bring Lady Silence over there and they time to question her, she does talk. She is ready to speak. But when Francis presses her and she wants to leave, she finally kind of cuts into him and wakes him up a little bit. Because she's asking him, she says, what you have to do, but you're not doing it. Why do you want to die? So I believe she's speaking to his alcohol problem. That he knows he has to quit. And she's asking him that. Now, maybe there's a double meaning here, but he's definitely taking it as that. And that's when all the shit hits the fan, pretty much. Because out on the deck, after he sent his guy out there, who's, they're all like ready to like snap on him. And he snaps on Fitzjames and punches him because they all came to confront him about the alcohol thing. Maybe not the best time to do it, but it had to be done. And at that point, we finally get our first good look at it. And I know it's not that great here, but that's not a fucking polar bear. It's I don't know. It has like kind of a shape of a polar bear, but no polar bear has that kind of movement. And they call it something or other. I'm not going to even bother. It's like a kubag, something like that. But it's not like, look, it's definitely on the probably endangered species list if anybody saw it. But she called it like a spirit. Now, I don't know, man. A spirit getting caught on fire and everything, I don't know. I still say that I'm sticking with a skinwalker type of thing because she says it's bound to no one now. And it could also be kind of like a Wendigo. Like a Wendigo spirit that they also talk about in like North American, like Native American mythology. The Wendigo is a person, I believe, that's like kind of infected with like an animal spirit, and it eats human flesh. It's in Marvel Comics. That's how I first got introduced to a Wendigo, but I've seen enough stories about it. So I still am pretty convinced that that's kind of what we're talking about. But Thomas, who I have liked and is continuing to like throughout this show, Francis's second in command, he's such a boss. And I knew I liked him, but I didn't know I loved him until this episode where he starts doing some Captain Jack Sparrow shit, running around the front of the ship because this thing gets on there and he's trying to lead it upwards. I mean, I guess kind of out of necessity at first, but I mean, he ends up leading it up all the way into the crow's nest. And this is some tense shit because I know we're dealing with a CGI character, but the tension in here is really great because we're still not getting a great look at what's behind us, and that's still scary. And we don't know where it is. He knows it's behind him. He knows it's under him, but he can't really gauge because the wind is blowing so bad and these guys are trying to get shots off. It already took another guy before he started climbing up there. And so we get that moment like right up here where he's at the end. He's at the top. He's at the end. He had taken the lantern apart and the thing like rips through his leg like butter. So he's already like basically gushing blood everywhere. He lights, they're trying to get the cannon, this like little mounted like a ship's cannon that they have in like if you've ever played Assassin's Creed, 4, Black Flag, where it's those little mounted cannons, not the big full-blown cannons. And so in order for them to see, he takes that little bit while he's hanging on for dear life, bleeding like a stuck pig with a freaking mythological bear behind him. He lights this thing up and hits him with it so that they can see the fire from a distance and get the hit on the target, where he says first shot of winter, lads, because he's only got one shot. And so it hits it knocks it down, but it takes him with. Now I thought he went all the way down, but no, he's hanging there by his leg because, again, brilliantly, after he gets his leg ripped, he still manages to freaking tie a tourniquet around his leg. The balls on this guy, man. And in a good way. Like, this guy is like freaking awesome. And he's still alive in the bottom of the ship when they pull him down. And Lady Silence takes this moment to bail. She and Francis share one last look as she runs. And this whole situation where Thomas is injured and everybody's drinking whiskey, he wants everybody to have a shot because he says he had like kind of an epiphany. And so yeah, he says he has his like epiphany. And this is that moment where Francis has to put up or shut up, make a stand, do something, because shit's really, really bad. They heard it, but it's not dead. And there's still many, many other things out there that they got to worry about. The ice is breaking their ships apart. They're running out of things. it's getting really, really desperate. And it's just a fantastic episode. Francis, calling his own intervention, them not saying anything, just letting him talk. And hopefully, episode 6 will probably be him pretty fucking sick, because it takes a while to get through that shit. And on your own with no help, at least he's got people that'll take care of him. But I detoxed myself, and let me tell you something. That fucking shit sucks. So he's in for a really bad time. But anyway, that's it where we leave off. We will be back with episode 6. We are now past the halfway point, so we've got the last 5 episodes of this season to go. Man, I can't believe it's only been 5 episodes. So anyway, if you liked this review, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, all these words. Otherwise, this is Robert Smirking on Review saying have a great day, and we'll be back later. Bye.